Hey, and welcome back to the Lit Cave. It has been a long time since I've made a video. It's been 4 months, and my excuse is that this has been the 4 months of probably the most change in my entire life. In the last 4 months, my wife and I, we've changed churches. We have bought a house and moved in. We got a new baby girl. I've got a new boss at work. And yeah, just a bunch of major changes, and it's been not my number one priority to make a YouTube video, but it is kind of nice to make another one. So I'm going to update you on everything I read since May. To be honest, for some of these, I'm just not even going to put the book cover up on the screen because I don't own the books, and I don't really want to take the time to edit this video more than I'm already going to. So I will just mention the book, and hopefully you'll know what I'm talking about, or you can Google the cover. So where I left off with what I had read when I did my last video in May was reading Okay for Now and Fish in a Tree. And the first two things I read during the summer were a couple of graphic novels. The first one was Through the Woods by Emily Carroll, and that one had a bunch of kind of creepy stories in it, and I had seen it on BookTube a lot. People were pretty positive about it, but to be honest, I was kind of disappointed. It was just okay to me. I gave it 3 out of 5 stars. It was a quick read, but it just didn't catch my interest that much. After that, I read This One Summer by Mariko Tamaki, another graphic novel, and this one was really an incredibly painful story about something that a young lady endured during a summer, and kind of what her parents had gone through in the past. It was a beautiful story. I gave it 3 out of 5 stars. But again, it just wasn't really my cup of tea, and I love graphic novels and everything like that. But it was just a little bit, maybe a little too depressing for what I was looking for, especially starting out the summer. So 3 out of 5 stars. After that, I read Just One Day by Gail Forman, and I was really excited about it because I loved Where She Went, and I loved If I Stay. So I was really excited to read this book, and it was good, but it just wasn't great. And in fact, it was so kind of middle of the road for me that I chose not to read the book that followed it. So, so gave that one 3 out of 5 stars as well. And then after that, I read Go Set a Watchman. And this was one of those books, pretty much everyone read it over the summer, I think. And it was one of those books that I was very excited to read because I teach To Kill a Mockingbird every year, and To Kill a Mockingbird is probably one of my all-time favorite books. And then I was really nervous to read it because I kept reading what people were saying about Atticus Finch and saying that he was, not a lovable character in this at all. And Atticus Finch is sort of the perfect character as far as he's everything you would aspire to be. So I was really nervous to read it, and I ended up really liking the book. I gave it 4 out of 5 stars. There were still some things that did hurt to read as a fan of To Kill a Mockingbird, but you really had to kind of view this as a separate book and try not to think of them as connected. I'd recommend that you read it, but I would really recommend that you separate it out in your head and not think of it as a sequel to Kill a Mockingbird. And I think you'd like it more that way. So 4 out of 5 stars, not too bad. After that, I was kind of in a reading slump for quite a while because I finished Go Set a Watchman on July 28th, and the next book I finished wasn't until September 14th. And the book I finally decided to read to kind of get me out of that reading slump was I reread Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone, and that was awesome. It just kind of made me remember why I loved reading so much and why I love Harry Potter. And so I do intend to reread the rest of the books fairly soon. But I'm reading kind of slow these days with everything else going on, and so it might be a while. Then I read the book I was probably most excited to read this summer, and that is Queen of Shadows by Sarah J. Maas. Man, I'm rusty keeping the book in the screenshot. But Queen of Shadows by Sarah J. Maas. This is the fourth book in the Throne of Glass series, not including the prequel novella Bind Up. And I continue to love these so much. Like, other than Harry Potter, these are probably my favorite. This is probably my favorite series. It's so well written and so interesting, and I love the world building, and I love the, certain characters that you kind of want to hate, and then you find yourself just loving, like the witches in the series. You kind of want to hate them, but then you find that there's so much more to them, and they're just really interesting characters. And the heroine in this series is one of my favorite main characters I've ever read. So I'm super excited to continue this series, and I'm probably going to be heartbroken when Sarah J. Maas finishes this series in a couple more books. So, but yeah, this one, 5 out of 5 stars. Absolutely one of my favorite reads all year. Highly recommend, if you haven't started reading this series, that you do. Okay, then after that, I went to a teaching training thing, and I won a book, and I got to pick, and I really wanted to read this. So I picked up Me and Earl and the Dying Girl. I was very excited to read it, and I was going to add this to my classroom library. I teach 9th grade English. But first of all, I didn't love it. I gave it 2 out of 5 stars. The characters were not very endearing. The main character was one of those characters that throughout the whole book you're just kind of like, oh my gosh, you're an idiot and a jerk. Like, stop it. Stop it. And I have a hard time reading books like that where I feel that way all the way through, and there's, to me, not like a ton of redemption at the end of the story. But also, in some places it was just kind of filthy. And I'm not a fan of dirty for dirty's sake. Yes, it was sort of an accurate representation of a teenage boy, but I think you can do it without it being quite the way that it was. But, I mean, it wasn't bad. It was just not my favorite. So 2 out of 5 stars. I wouldn't recommend this book personally. Then, after that, I read The Copper Gauntlet by Holly Black and Cassandra Clare. This is the sequel to the Iron Trial, which was the first book in the Magisterium series. These are 2 really fantastic authors. Cassandra Clare's series is one of my favorite series as well. And I liked the Iron Trial okay, but I kind of felt like after the Iron Trial that it was a lot of good sort of world building, but it wasn't a great book, and I thought the sequel would be better, and this proved me right. So I gave The Copper Gauntlet 4 out of 5 stars. I think it may have even been 4.5 out of 5 stars. Really, really good. Looking forward to the next book in the series. I do recommend this series. It's middle grade. It's short, pretty easy to read. Good books to pick up. And then after that, I picked up another book I was super excited about, which was Magnus Chase and the Gods of Asgard. Well, that's the name of the series. The first book is called The Sword of Summer. And so this is Rick Riordan's Norse mythology series. And I love Rick Riordan's books. I'm a big fan of mythology. I was very interested to read some about Norse mythology because my knowledge of Norse mythology is very limited. And I have been really enjoying this so far. So, well, I say really enjoying it so far. I've finished it. I gave it 4.5 out of 5 stars. I'm really looking forward to the second book in the series. And of course, a lot of people have announced that he announced another Greek mythology series after this. And I'm looking forward to that too. I've really loved all of his books, basically. So, can't wait to continue this series. And then, I'll show you what I'm reading now. Right now, I'm reading Black Widow Forever Read by Margaret Stohl. And this is a really interesting deal to me. So this is a sort of young adult mystery spy novel set in the Marvel Cinematic Universe and featuring the Black Widow character from Marvel Comics. And it definitely channels the Scarlett Johansson version of the character. And right now I'm about 200 pages into this book and really loving it. I've been reading really slow the last week just because our new little baby girl's been having a hard time sleeping the last week really, and our son's been sick as well. So, but love this book. Cannot wait to keep reading this book. In fact, tomorrow my kids are reading the first 10 minutes of every class period, so this is what I'll be reading. Hopefully I'll make a big dent on it tomorrow. Can't wait to finish it off. And this is the first book that Marvel's doing like this, but they've already got a sequel to this book planned for next year, and a Captain Marvel young adult novella planned for next year. So I can't wait to read those either. And I'll show you what I'm going to read next after I finish this. The next book that I plan on reading after I finish Black Widow Forever Read is Robert Galbraith's Career of Evil. This is the third book in the Cormoran Strike series. Robert Galbraith is a pseudonym for J.K. Rowling, and these are her adult mystery novels, which I love. So the first two are The Cuckoo's Calling and The Silkworm, and they're both fantastic. Probably gave them both 5 stars, so I'm very eager to read this one, which I anticipate will probably be another 4 or 5 star book. So I don't know how soon I'll do another video. Hopefully it won't be 4 more months, but hopefully the next time I do a video I can tell you for sure what I thought of the Black Widow book and this book, and tell you about some other books as well. Anyway, thanks for stopping by again. See you same lit time, same lit channel.